So if I can just begin by asking you to just tell us about yourself, your previous and current business activities and interests.
Yes. So I started working in the recruitment industry in 1998, and at the time, my involvement really was placing contractors in the banking sector in the city, and my first dealings really with Access Financial came when I moved company. And what I've done is I've decided to start focusing on supplying contractors to companies in mainland Europe. And this was quite a novel thing at the time. Some of the larger players like S3 had opened some offices in various European cities, but it was a real kind of there was a level of risk whenever anyone thought about operating outside of your borders. Then people were often quite concerned, and they'd look at you quite quizzically. The good thing about meeting people like Kevin, further on down the line, was he was able to offer a lot of reassurance and and scope really to kind of operate across Europe, safe in the knowledge that you were safe, and you were providing good surety to your clients, but also to your contractors as well.
So the compliance element was a strong point for you.
Yes, it was. So when we set up European Staffing Solutions, which then became ESS, then it became Eurostaff, Earth Staff, and overall the group staff group. We were often going into conversations with companies who had local providers. So they had, whilst they had local expertise from an accounting and legal framework, they didn't necessarily have the capability for delivering resource. And I'd always say, UK-based agencies are much more effective at delivering that, and that's kind of where we came in.
Excellent. Okay. And in terms of, we talked a little bit there about the compliance. Can you outline some of the risks as you saw it then?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say one of the big risks that we used to, often come across was the misinformation really that contractors would have been kind of used to, either from their UK-based accountants or organisation offering offshore schemes that really just place such a level of risk for the agency, but also for the end client. So it's been able to mitigate that. That was really important, and I think that's one of the important things about having a really good partner. And we're fortunate to have that with Access Financial.
Okay. When you're choosing a provider, what were you looking for from a service provider? Can you give us some insights on that?
So when we started to get a level of scale in our business, I can remember engaging with our accountants at the time, our lawyers at the time, an organisation called Osborne Clark, and we had essentially an audit kind of mentality to make sure that when we were talking with different providers, we weren't interested in whether they could give us incentives to start referring people onto them. If anything, I thought there was alarm bells whenever that happened. We wanted to make sure that we were getting the right advice. So we would look at we'd look at the background of the people owning the organisation. We would look at the structures. We would make sure that we were able to have our own advisors, our own accountants, able to talk to different providers, because very often, once you brought that question into the fold, some suppliers would go, "Oh no, we don't want that," and we never had that with Access. And I think the other big thing is as well. I mean, Switzerland was an unusual country, and it is an unusual country. It's a beautiful, unusual country, but the labour leasing licenses and the federal and cantonal kind of arrangements there meant you had to be really very careful about how you did this. Very complex. And I remember speaking to a number of different providers, and we were getting to that size whereby, you know, we needed to be in country. We needed to be able to pick these issues up ourselves, as opposed to offshore that or outsource that all the time. And being able to have a partner who was able to kind of really guide us through that very sensitively over time was really helpful.
That was when you outsourced your Swiss company.
Yes, yes.
And what was the I guess what was the most successful thing about the outsourcing for you?
Again, it's about assurance, you know, and being able to sleep at night. You know, as an organisation, I think we had at one stage, we placed contractors in over 60 countries, and you don't want the headache that can bring kind of weighing on you, and we didn't really. And it was interesting when we came to sell the business. You know, there were some issues with regards to some contractors working in some of the more kind of obscure African countries, but certainly working across Europe. You know, it was said that, you know, we were a very clean setup, and I think that was really important to have that, because, you know, I think sometimes organisations with a very short-term mentality, what they can be doing is looking to, you know, save a little bit of money, or kind of push a provider that might be able to provide a better return for the contractor. For us, it was about having, you know, a high level assurance as an organisation.
Okay, and how did specifically Access Financial kind of help or support or assist you or reassure you? Was it just through compliance, or was there other mechanisms that we were able to support you, or you felt that you were supported?
I think compliance was important. I think the early use of technology, particularly in places like Germany, you know, is really important. You know, things like different, you know, portals for the contractors to be able to see very clearly what was happening, because we were hearing nightmare stories of different providers not filing returns, you know, and that was never the case. You know, we were able to say, okay, speak to Access Financial. They will give you visibility of what's happening. And I think, you know, having that, you know, visibility for contractors provided them with enormous amounts of reassurance. I think the other thing is as well, this wasn't the cheapest offering. It didn't necessarily give the greatest level of always financial return, but they were slick, and it was a very visible and clear offering. And I think, listen, clearly the success of the organisation kind of reinforces that, because people stay with you, and you know, I think that's really important.
Okay, thank you. And how could we have done things differently? Is there areas that you know we could have done differently? Areas that we could have expanded into to support you? Anything that we could do better?
I think one of the things that I used to speak with Kevin quite a lot was regarding the actual immigration side of things. That was always very difficult, particularly when you were working in countries that had recently found oil, for instance. You know, from an exploration point of view, companies who had started, you know, bringing international companies into their country, but didn't necessarily have a well-defined internal system for processing visas. So sometimes it was. I remember a client we had in Algeria, and I can remember speaking to Access about it, and it was just like, look, this is it's a socialist country. You know, the kind of tax risk is enormous, and actually, whilst we might be able to help you, our concern is that there will be people at play that might want inducements to be able to kind of process things quicker. And it says we don't get involved in that. And it was really interesting, because certainly for a period of time there was a number of recruitment companies who and other service providers who got in a lot of trouble, because they were paying inducements and to push through visas and the like. And you know, some people, you know, got custodial sentences as a result of it. So, you know, being really clear and just say no, we can't really help on that. And I always respected that, and sometimes we had to go and look for another solution, but it certainly was never without a desire to try and help, you know. And you know, I think one of the kind of abiding memories is my go-to person. I had two go-to people I would always ring about compliance, and you know, and Kevin and the team was certainly one of them, and I would usually speak to both to kind of get a perspective on things, and it was enormously helpful.
Excellent. Okay. What would you tell other recruitment companies? I mean, clearly the contracting landscape has changed significantly over the years, certainly since 1998. But in terms of what would you tell other recruitment companies about access, about services that we provide, about using us compared to others?
I would say it's about experience, you know, and it's about really understanding that changing landscape, because hybrid working, cross-border hybrid working from home, I think there's often an assumption the risks have just completely been kind of mitigated as a result of that. That's not necessarily the case. And I think having a provider who is innovating and, you know, constantly up to date on the changes in each of, you know, many countries' jurisdictions, you know, is important. I mean, you know, this is a global marketplace for talent, you know, and it has been going that way obviously for a number of years. But I think certainly the ability for a recruitment company to offer, you know, a globalized service, particularly in workforce management, is really key. And I'm aware there's like kind of online organizations, you know, which are, you know, heavily digitized, incredibly user friendly, and certainly market themselves on the basis that they can deal with everything. That's not as simple as it sounds, because what it needs, it relies on expertise. Because whilst you can have the knowledge, but the ability to be able to transact and kind of make sure things work case by case is really important. And you know, Access are very, very good at doing that.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Paul. Really appreciate it. I know you're a very busy person. Absolute pleasure to meet with you.
Lovely. Take care. All the best.
Thank you very much. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.